Welcome to this episode. It's our 3-month on the road update, and it's hard to believe that we have been out here already for 3 months. We have seen a lot. We have packed a lot of stuff into the last 3 months, and so today it's really about the observations and the expectations that we went into this with, and some of the things that we've discovered we maybe didn't need, maybe we did need. Those kinds of observations, and I'm gonna kick it off by saying I think one of the first things that I've really noticed about this is the first several weeks of this. I think were too much of like our cross Canada trip, where we were set up, tear down, set up, tear down, like day after day after day.
Yeah.
And that got
old real fast.
Yeah, we're just not at an age to be able to pull that off like we were
even then.
2016. Yeah, it was hard to do that, but now it is practically impossible. So we've really learned that one of the key things about this trip is we have to take our time, get set up, get rested, see the sights, that kind of stuff. So that's one of the big observations I've had right out of the gate.
Yeah, and have time to do the stuff that we brought, like sewing or creating, and just mellowing in the space.
Right. Power has been a big concern. Now in 2016, we had one inverter that we had with us. And when we were driving from campsite to campsite, there was enough time to be able to charge up the phones. What I've discovered on this trip, however, is there's a lot more things, not just the phones, but the iPad. And then when you look at all the other things that we have on this trip that require power. So we've got a refrigerator, we've got an air conditioner, we've got lights, we've got our phones, our iPads, we've got the computer.
The slides.
There's so much that requires power, and so to be able to do this strictly off of the 12 volt that comes in the rig has become difficult. When we don't have shore power, the 12 volt isn't enough to even be able to charge the phones and stuff. So I have to hook up an inverter, a separate one, in order to do that. So that has become really critical for us to recognize that we're really going to need in the next leg of this trip to have some kind of power that we have that's a little bit more stable. I don't want to get into gas generators, so we are looking very carefully at some kind of a solar power station. Haven't made the final decision yet, and that'll be something that'll be coming up, I think, in the next few weeks.
Yeah. We added Starlink, so that's power. But one of the things, like we're sitting outside, we don't sit outside enough because I think we don't have the comfortable chairs. Right. I miss my I think it's a negative gravity chair where it's comfortable. I mean, nothing against the chairs that we were given, but they're short-term sitting, and I like to put up my feet when I'm reading. And it's nice to read outside, because...
Yeah, we've been pouring through the books. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and because we don't have something comfortable to sit on outside, we're sitting inside on the recliners, which is nice on a rainy day that we have them. But it'd be nice to spend more time outside, because we don't really hike in that. We take Morrie for walks, and we have to be careful where we go. Though today, I thought that it was a challenge where he was, and he was running across rocks that were covered with, what are those things?
I don't know, all kinds of seaweed plant life things.
Little white, sharp things.
Oh, those, right, the barnacles.
Barnacles, yes.
Yeah, yeah, he did well in that. Another thing that I discovered, I mean, in a very early episode, we talked about bringing a vac sealer with us.
Yeah.
And of course, from a home perspective, we use the vac sealer all the time because we buy our meat in bulk. And then I cut everything up into the portions, and then we vac seal and we put them in the freezer, and they're good for months. But what we discovered is that, A, we don't have a freezer big enough to buy meat in bulk.
Yeah.
And so we've been fortunate to be in a town at least once a week, and we can pick up enough meat and other supplies to last us for that week. But the vac sealer was just sitting there not being used.
Taking up space, valuable real estate.
Yeah, and so we ended up giving it away.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a bit of a surprise. I mean, I came into this thinking that, oh yeah, this is going to be a real standard part of what we're doing, and it turned out that we've never used it.
Yeah, which we've discovered that we are able to live with way less, like things and clothes, especially clothes. Like, you know, I have stuff I haven't touched.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to that same thing, we did do an episode early on about the dehydrator and how much dehydrated stuff we were going to be doing. I think in my head, this camping trip was going to be very similar to our one in 2016, where I pre-made so many meals and had them all in a place where you just add water and you're having a chickpea curry, for example. We haven't been doing that. Again, because we're close to stores, we're able to get fresh vegetables, we're able to get fresh meat, fresh fruit, and we buy enough to be able to get us through for a few days. So all that dehydrated stuff that I have, we have used some of it, but nowhere near what I thought we were going to use. And the only thing that the dehydrator has actually been used for is when we buy spaghetti sauce in bulk. It takes up a lot of room in the fridge, or it takes a lot of room underneath. I don't want glass jars, and I don't want the big plastic jars hanging around. So we've been pulling out the dehydrator when we buy big bulk spaghetti sauce, and then we dehydrate that, because once it's dehydrated, it takes up no space at all. But the other part of that is that it reconstitutes, and I can't really tell the difference between the fresh and the reconstituted. So that's the only thing it's been getting used for.
I think we have to be more intentional with meal planning, so that we do use the dehydrated and do dehydrate like full meals like we did.
Yeah. Well, especially if we're going to be off doing boondocking, and that is something that the power thing comes back into play.
Yeah.
We've discovered that as far as boondocking, i.e. being off-grid, that we are good in our current setup for 1.5 days. We can do it. Yeah. And so if we're going to be doing these, 4-day, 5-day, 7-day boondocking expeditions, the power part of it comes into play huge, but it's on those times when we can say, let's just make sure that all of our meals are from our dehydrated product, and prepare for those, have those meals ready to go, so that all we're doing is adding water from our fresh water tank. Boom, you've got a full meal.
Yeah. Something sort of related to hobbies and that, I think we need a bigger table than we have. It's a U shape, and it's kind of wobbly, but in order for me to use my sewing machine, like if it's a rainy day,
I have to take the computer down.
Yes.
Yes.
But if it's not a rainy day, but it's more, you have to be more intentional with.
Right.
I have to be with my hobbies, because I can't leave the sewing machine out.
Right.
Like when we're stationary. No. And so I thought it's kind of frivolous, but a bigger table, so that, because one half of the table or one half of the dinette is not being used. It's used for storage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how we're going to solve that one yet, but it is in the thinking process, and you're absolutely right. We need to come up with a solution to that.
That space at the end of the rig is not being utilized as much as it could be. I also have something, the checklist for set up and set down.
Right.
They say we've been told, on YouTube, taking advice from YouTubers, and some of it is valid, like having a checklist.
Right.
We do have a checklist, but I have found that I don't have to check it, because set up or set takedown, it's part of what I do. I know what needs to be done, and I don't have a lot of things that have to be taken down because I've stuck them there.
I think it was vital for us in the first, let's say, 6 weeks that we were out to make sure that we were getting into that rhythm. But you're absolutely correct. I take care of most of the outside stuff, getting that taken down while you're working on the inside stuff. And it's just becoming kind of a sequence of events. You start at this end of the rig and you go to this end of the rig, and everything that needs to be done gets done in a sequence.
Yeah.
The checklist is good. However, I think we are still occasionally looking at it to say, okay, is there anything that we're missing? And so I'm going to say that it's good to have that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
But it's one of those things that eventually it just becomes a reminder, because there are times that you get busy and you forget things.
Those days that you're just not engaged with living.
What's going on? Yeah. I mean,
Like,
there's been, one day that I almost forgot to bring in the Starlink system. And it just wasn't even on my mind. I passed it 3 or 4 times. And the next time I remembered it, we were already in the truck on our way. And I went, oh my gosh, I didn't. And she said, well, no, I did it. I saw it was there. So,
I saw that you were busy, and I understood what you were focusing on. The one thing I do find is if I'm slower for whatever reason, especially if I had a shower, I'm behind on my set down, takedown. And if you come in and do one, like you did the wardrobe, simple, but it kind of
throws you out of sequence.
It threw me off.
Yeah.
And I had to keep telling myself, it's okay
Yeah.
that he did this. Now that's off my list.
Well, it's just I was done. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
You were still busy doing things. And I don't want to get in the way. And I think that's the other thing, is that we've really, without making a plan, we've ended up having duties in both the setup and the teardown that we've just migrated to, and now have taken responsibility for those things.
Yeah. The one thing that, like the Starlink, was an oversight, because you were focused on, I can't remember what, but I took it in, and then there's the gas.
Right, the propane.
We sit in the truck. I think we need to go back to that, looking at the list. Okay, did we do this? That sometimes I have to think, did we use the indoor, did we use the stove?
Anything,
did we use that needed gas? Because sometimes if we don't, it can get left on. And there was one day that, we forget some still. Like, I used the toilet, and I needed the pump, and I forgot to turn the pump off, and I had just read about someone the pump was left on and a tap got knocked in the shower, and $12,000 worth of damage.
Doesn't take much.
Like, oh my goodness, no.
Yeah, and that's really what the checklists are for, is to make sure that you have checked off everything.
Yeah, and that happened after everything was all done.
Yeah. Here's one that I'm going to give a shout out to our neighbor, Will. Oh my goodness. As we were getting ready to go on this trip, he said, oh, don't forget that you're probably going to be doing a lot of bottled water. And I thought, no, I've got a filtration system. I think we're going to be, we're going to be good.
I have a cast iron stomach.
Yeah, we've been camping for a very long time. I'm good. We were at one campsite that I actually felt, I think the water here is a little sketchy, even through the filtration system, and we have no way of testing it. What we tested was that I ended up with 3 days of severe stomach cramps.
And running.
Like, thank goodness we had a washroom that was in the rig, because it was every half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can't guarantee that that's what this is from, but it's the only variable that is different is the water at the different campsites.
And I had it in our first one at Dinosaur. And we had got the water from
Brooks.
from a truck stop at Brooks, which was potable water. But thank goodness, the outhouse was just across the room, across the way. And
so we have taken to drinking a lot of bottled water, and we are actually drinking a lot more. I feel way more hydrated now than I was before.
Yeah.
But the other thing that has now led into is we are accumulating an incredible amount of recyclables. And so we've had to now put that into our travel plans to say, well, okay, at what point can we stop to get rid of recyclables, or do we just, donate them to the campground that we're at? But it is something that I wasn't really expecting. I thought the filtration system that we were using was going to be fine. But it turned, tummies say otherwise, and now it's to the point that if I want to stay hydrated, I'm really depending on that bottled water. So, okay, Will, you get one on this. You were right.
You were right. We were wrong. Our tummies sided with you. So we're going to have to figure out that, especially when we go to provinces or states, especially states that don't have returnables.
Yeah.
They just recycle them or nothing at all. It's just garbage, which is unfortunate. So we do have to think bigger.
Well, I've only got one more thing on my list. Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Chairs. Oh, the rig. I thought it was going to be cramped and we're going to be on it, because it's dark. We do have to deal with that, but it's turned out to be just right.
Yeah,
for the table.
30 foot, when you think about it, is like, that's not a lot of living space, but we really haven't had an issue. We've got places to go. We can't be cooking at the same time. There's not enough room. So if one of us is cooking, the other one can't be standing there doing dishes, but we figured that out. If we're reading, we both have our own chairs. If we're sleeping, we both have our own space on the bed.
Well,
and you like to spend a lot of time outdoors, and I like to go with Morrie on very long walks. So we have enough time together, but we also have enough time in our own little spaces that we've been able to do a lot.
Yeah, the only thing is that I feel awkward when you're cooking. I'm thinking, I should be doing something.
Yeah, go sit and wait for me to finish dinner.
So, so I do, when he's not in front of it, I'll take the plates out and that. But I just feel like I'm watching him because the chairs are directly facing the
I love work. I could sit here and watch it all day long. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing on my list, and I really have discovered that this is important, is we have figured out in the first 3 months that we have to get off the main roads more frequently. So much of our travel in the past has been on a main highway, sometimes a secondary highway. We've had some good holidays taking nothing but secondary highways, but we have had a tendency of staying at popular places or things that are advertised.
Safe places.
Safe places.
Like campgrounds.
Yeah. But on this trip, the couple of things that we've really come up with, things like the LaSalle Lake that we talked about in the last episode, unbelievable to discover that and find that even existed. We passed by it dozens of times, and the other one that we want to go into in depth right now is Ancient Forest. I mean, here was a place that we have passed by on the highway dozens of times.
Yeah.
Never stopped. And to get off and sort of find those things that are out there. And where we're finding these is talking to people that have been to them and talking to the locals and finding out where do you go, what do you do, what do you see. We have another one that's going to be coming up in a future episode on the lava fields, which are 100K north of Terrace. Very windy road, but
worth it.
I didn't even know it existed. And so
I lived in British Columbia for a few decades.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about it. It wasn't in school.
So those kinds of things have become really valuable to us, and we need to make a more concerted effort to make sure that we're tracking down those off the beaten path type places that we can go to see really interesting things about this country.
To really make this journey that we're on have more value.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just an extended holiday or a camping trip, which it is, but it's got to be more about getting to places that we've never seen that we can then share with others and say, hey, if you ever get a chance, if you're up in this area, go take a look at this. Which leads us into the ancient forest. We had a chance to take a look at that. It's just off the highway in between McBride and Prince George in BC, just off the 16, and an amazing place. So I think we're going to go dip into that right now.
Okay. you.